Fame often feels untouchable, like a shield against tragedy. But what happens when destiny strikes in the most bizarre, unpredictable ways? Some of Hollywood's brightest stars and cultural icons didn't fade with time. They were ripped away by freak accidents that stunned the world. Can you imagine your favorite celebrity gone in the blink of an eye under the strangest circumstances? Today, we're uncovering 26 shocking stories you won't believe actually happened. Brandon Lee, the son of a legend, taken by a twist of fate. Brandon Lee, son of martial arts icon Bruce Lee, was on the brink of stardom in 1993 while filming The Crow. At just 28 years old, Brandon was poised to carve his own path in Hollywood, stepping out of his father's immense shadow. The movie was dark, atmospheric, and demanded physically intense performances that Brandon delivered flawlessly. But during one of the final scenes, a routine shot turned disastrous. A prop malfunctioned, leading to a fatal injury that no one saw coming. Cast and crew were left horrified, and the world was robbed of a rising star just as his career was beginning to soar. What made Brandon's passing even more haunting was the eerie parallel to his father's sudden death 2 decades earlier. Fans couldn't help but draw unsettling comparisons, with many suggesting that fate seemed almost cruelly scripted. The Crow was eventually completed with stand-ins and digital effects, but every frame carries the weight of the tragedy behind it. Brandon Lee's story remains one of Hollywood's most gut-wrenching what-could-have-been tales. His untimely end reminds us that even the safest-looking movie set can become a place where dreams meet disaster. Paul Walker. A life lived at full throttle ended in a devastating twist. Paul Walker, the beloved star of the Fast and Furious franchise, embodied speed, style, and a free-spirited love for cars. Off-screen, he wasn't just an actor, he was a humanitarian, a devoted father, and an adventurer who often preferred real-life thrills over Hollywood glitz. In 2013, during a charity event for his own relief foundation, Walker took a ride in a high-performance car with his friend. The drive was meant to be short, simple, and fun. Instead, it ended in catastrophe. The car lost control and crashed, erupting into flames. Walker, only 40 years old, never made it out alive. The shocking news shook fans around the world, especially because his on-screen persona revolved around high-speed cars. Millions mourned the cruel irony of an actor celebrated for racing films being lost in a real-life automotive tragedy. Universal Pictures faced the heartbreaking decision of finishing Furious 7 without him, ultimately using CGI and his brothers as stand-ins to honor his legacy. Paul Walker's story isn't just about the end, it's about the impact. His foundation, Reach Out Worldwide, continues to help disaster-struck communities, proving that his compassion outlives the tragedy. To this day, fans celebrate him not just as a star, but as a genuine soul taken far too soon. James Dean. The original rebel, silenced before his prime, James Dean was more than just an actor. He was an icon, a symbol of restless youth and misunderstood passion. With only 3 major films under his belt, Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant, Dean managed to redefine what it meant to be young and defiant in the 1950s. In 1955, at just 24 years old, Dean's love for speed led him to purchase a sleek Porsche Spyder, which he nicknamed Little Bastard. He was on his way to a race in California when tragedy struck. While driving on a quiet highway, his car collided with another vehicle. Dean was killed instantly, leaving Hollywood and the world in stunned disbelief. The shock wasn't just in his age, but in how perfectly it matched his daredevil image. His untimely passing cemented him as a cultural legend, forever young, forever restless, forever frozen in time. For fans, James Dean wasn't just an actor. He was a mirror of their own struggles with identity and rebellion. Even decades later, his legacy hasn't dimmed. Posters of his brooding face still hang in college dorms, and his style continues to influence fashion and film. James Dean's freak accident sealed him in history not as a fading star, but as an eternal flame of youthful defiance. Anton Yelchin, a rising star crushed by an unimaginable twist. Anton Yelchin, known for his role as Chekhov in the Star Trek reboot series, was one of Hollywood's most promising young actors. With his boyish charm and quiet intensity, Yelchin had already carved out a career filled with indie gems and blockbuster hits by his mid-20s. Fans and critics alike expected a long, celebrated career ahead of him. But in 2016, tragedy struck in the driveway of his own Los Angeles home. After stepping out of his Jeep Grand Cherokee, the vehicle suddenly rolled backward due to a known mechanical flaw. It pinned him against a brick post and security gate, cutting his life short at just 27 years old. The accident shocked not only Hollywood but also car manufacturers worldwide, sparking major recalls and lawsuits. It was surreal. A young man who portrayed explorers venturing into galaxies far beyond our own was suddenly taken by the most mundane and cruel of earthly mishaps. Anton Yelchin's parents later established a foundation in his honor, supporting young artists. His death remains one of the most tragic reminders that even the brightest lights can be extinguished in the unlikeliest of ways. Isadora Duncan, a glamorous pioneer brought down by fashion itself. Isadora Duncan, often called the mother of modern dance, dazzled the world in the early 20th century with her flowing movements and daring performances. Rejecting the rigid traditions of ballet, she invented a freer, more emotional style of dance that influenced generations, but her larger-than-life persona ended in one of the strangest accidents in celebrity history. In 1927, while in Nice, France, Duncan climbed into a convertible sports car. Her trademark long silk scarf draped elegantly around her neck. As the car began to move, the scarf caught in one of the wheels, pulling her violently from the vehicle. She died instantly. The fashion accessory that had become her signature became the instrument of her demise. Newspapers at the time described the accident in stunned disbelief, with some calling it an eerie symbol of her dramatic bohemian lifestyle. Isadora Duncan's legacy as a revolutionary artist remains untarnished. Today, dancers continue to study her free-spirited methods, though her freak passing serves as a chilling reminder that beauty and danger can sometimes intertwine in the strangest ways. Vic Morrow, a veteran actor caught in a film tragedy like no other. Vic Morrow, star of the 1960s TV series Combat, and a respected character actor, was filming Twilight Zone, the movie in 1982, when disaster struck. His segment required a night scene with explosions, helicopters, and child actors, intense, cinematic, and risky. But during filming, the helicopter flying overhead lost control after a pyrotechnic blast went wrong. The aircraft descended and struck Morrow and two young co-stars. All three were killed instantly. The freak accident made headlines across the globe and resulted in one of the most controversial lawsuits in Hollywood history. The tragedy not only ended Morrow's career, but also forced the industry to reevaluate safety regulations on film sets. New rules regarding stunts, special effects, and the use of children in dangerous scenes were created to ensure that such a disaster would never repeat itself. Vic Morrow's name remains forever tied to that haunting night, but he is also remembered for his gritty performances and his devotion to his craft. His story is a sobering reminder of the hidden dangers lurking behind the magic of movie making. Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter taken by the ocean he loved. Steve Irwin was one of the most beloved wildlife experts in the world, known for his boundless energy, fearless encounters, and infectious passion for conservation. Through his hit series, The Crocodile Hunter, Irwin transformed dangerous animals into household names and inspired millions to respect the natural world. In 2006, while filming an underwater documentary off the coast of Australia, Irwin approached a giant stingray. Normally shy creatures, stingrays rarely attack, but in a freak moment, one struck him in the chest with its barb. Irwin, just 44 years old, passed away before help could arrive. The shock was global. Fans who grew up watching his enthusiasm felt as though they had lost a friend. Tributes poured in, and his memorial service drew millions of viewers. His family carried on his conservation work, with his daughter Bindi Irwin and son Robert continuing his mission at the Australia Zoo. Steve, Irwin's freak accident was heartbreaking, but his legacy is pure inspiration. A man who lived with unshakable passion for wildlife and who left behind a global movement for conservation. Owen Hart, a wrestling hero lost in a live performance. Owen Hart, a member of the legendary Hart wrestling family, was known for his acrobatics and charisma in the WWE ring. Fans loved his mix of humor, athleticism, and underdog charm. He wasn't just a wrestler. He was a performer who could make crowds roar with laughter and gasp in awe. In May 1999, during a live pay-per-view event, Hart was scheduled to make a dramatic entrance from the rafters of an arena. He was being lowered by a harness when it suddenly malfunctioned. Hart fell more than 70 feet into the ring in front of a horrified audience. He did not survive. The tragedy was broadcast live, though cameras quickly cut away. Fans and fellow wrestlers were left devastated, and WWE faced intense scrutiny for the stunt's safety. Hart's death sparked years of legal battles and changed the way live performances were staged. To this day, Owen Hart is remembered as one of wrestling's brightest talents, a man whose humor and athletic ability made him unforgettable. His freak accident remains one of the darkest moments in sports entertainment history, forever altering the industry. Tyrone Power, a swashbuckling star struck down mid-performance. Tyrone Power was one of Hollywood's most bankable leading men in the 1930s and 40s. Known for films like The Mark of Zorro and Blood and Sand, he was adored for his matinee idol looks and charismatic screen presence. Audiences loved him as a fearless swordsman who seemed invincible on screen. But in 1958, while filming Solomon and Sheba in Spain, Power collapsed during an intense dueling sequence. At just 44 years old, he suffered a massive heart attack in front of the cast and crew. Despite efforts to save him, he was gone before reaching the hospital. The film was completed with actor Yul Brynner taking over the role, but every frame bore the shadow of tragedy. For fans, the shock was profound. A man whose image was built on vitality and strength suddenly cut down in the very act that defined his career. Power's sudden passing cemented his status as a Hollywood legend. He remains remembered not only for his striking beauty and adventurous roles, but also as a reminder that even icons of vigor can be as fragile as anyone. Jon Erik Hexum. A prank turned to disaster on set. Jon Erik Hexum was a rising television star in the 1980s, best known for the series Voyagers and the CBS show Cover Up. With movie star looks and undeniable charisma, Hexum was on the verge of a breakout career. In 1984, during downtime on the set of Cover Up, Hexum grew restless as the crew prepared equipment. He jokingly picked up a prop firearm, loaded with blanks, and held it to his head in a mock gesture of frustration. He pulled the trigger, never realizing the danger. The force of the blank cartridge caused a catastrophic head injury, and days later, he passed away at just 26 years old. The accident shocked Hollywood and underscored the hidden risks of safe props. Studios revisited on-set safety standards, vowing to prevent such tragedies. Jon Erik Hexum's story is both heartbreaking and cautionary. A promising life ended by a moment of thoughtless play, reminding us that even the smallest choices can carry immense consequences. Maria Serrano. A music career cut short in the skies. Maria Serrano, a member of the popular Belgian girl group K3, was celebrated for her lively performances and devoted fanbase across Europe. With catchy pop tunes and colorful stage shows, K3 was more than a band. It was a cultural phenomenon for children and families. In 2006, Serrano was traveling in Spain with her husband and child when tragedy struck. Their plane encountered severe difficulties shortly after takeoff. The crash claimed the lives of all on board, including Serrano, who was just 27 years old. Fans were devastated, not only because of her youth, but also because her group represented joy and innocence. The surviving members of K3 honored her memory by continuing the music, but for many fans, the group would never be the same. Maria Serrano's passing remains a haunting example of how quickly lives can change, turning an ordinary trip into an unforgettable catastrophe. Heather O'Rourke. The child star whose smile hid an unseen threat, Heather O'Rourke became a household name in the 1980s as the angelic young girl in Poltergeist. With her blonde hair and unforgettable line, "They're here," she captured the eerie innocence that made the film a classic. Behind the scenes, O'Rourke was a typical child who loved acting and delighted in making people laugh. But in 1988, at just 12 years old, she was rushed to the hospital with flu-like symptoms. Doctors misdiagnosed her condition, and she died during emergency surgery from a congenital intestinal blockage that had gone unnoticed. The sudden loss of such a bright young talent shocked Hollywood. Fans of Poltergeist were heartbroken, and conspiracy theories soon swirled about a so-called poltergeist curse surrounding the film's cast. But beyond myths, Heather O'Rourke's story is one of a young actress with immense promise, remembered forever for a role that continues to haunt and enchant audiences around the world. Vic Henley. A comedian's life ended in an ordinary instant. Vic Henley, a stand-up comic beloved for his southern charm and quick wit, entertained audiences for decades with appearances on Comedy Central, The Tonight Show, and countless comedy stages. Known for his warmth as much as his humor, Henley was respected by peers and cherished by fans. In 2020, Henley was out for a casual walk when he suddenly collapsed. Doctors later determined he had suffered a pulmonary embolism, an unexpected blockage that cut off his life at 57 years old. For fans and fellow comedians, the loss was staggering. Henley was known as the kind of performer who made everyone feel like a friend, whether in a comedy club or on television. His passing reminded the comedy world how fleeting life can be, even for those who make a career out of laughter. Vic Henley's freak accident wasn't dramatic in a cinematic sense, but it was shocking in its ordinariness. One moment he was full of life, the next he was gone, leaving behind memories of laughter that still echo today. Leslie Howard. A screen legend lost to war's randomness, Leslie Howard, best remembered as Ashley Wilkes in Gone with the Wind, was more than an actor. He was also a director, producer, and even rumored to have worked in intelligence during World War II. His refined charm and quiet magnetism made him one of Britain's most respected cultural figures. In 1943, Howard boarded a civilian plane flying from Lisbon to London. The trip seemed routine, but fate had other plans. German aircraft intercepted the flight, reportedly mistaking it for a plane carrying British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. The aircraft was shot down, killing everyone on board, including Howard. At just 50 years old, Howard's loss was not only a personal tragedy, but also a symbolic blow to wartime morale. Some believed his death wasn't random at all, fueling theories about espionage and mistaken identities. Regardless of speculation, Leslie Howard's passing remains one of the most shocking freak accidents of wartime Hollywood, a reminder that even stars weren't safe from the chaos of history. Rocky Marciano. The undefeated champion taken before his birthday. Rocky Marciano was a boxing legend, famous for being the only heavyweight champion to retire undefeated. His iron will and relentless fighting style made him a hero, not just in the ring, but also to everyday people who admired his grit. In 1969, on the eve of his 46th birthday, Marciano boarded a small private plane in Iowa, en route to a surprise party planned by his family. Storms rolled in, and the pilot attempted to land in poor conditions. The plane crashed just a few miles short of the runway, killing Marciano and the others on board. Fans were devastated. How could a man who seemed indestructible in the ring fall victim to something so random and uncontrollable? His record of 49-0 still stands as a monument to his power, but his passing reminds us that life has no respect for even the greatest of champions. Princess Diana. A global icon gone in an instant. Princess Diana, beloved as the people's princess, captured the world with her grace, compassion, and vulnerability. Her humanitarian work and down-to-earth nature made her a symbol of kindness in a world often defined by distance between royalty and the public. On August 31, 1997, Diana's life was cut short in a Paris tunnel when the car she was riding in lost control while being pursued by photographers. At only 36 years old, she left behind 2 young sons and a grieving world. The tragedy stunned millions. Her funeral was watched by over 2 billion people, making it one of the most viewed broadcasts in history. Out of her death came greater scrutiny of media intrusion and public conversation about the pressures faced by celebrities and royals alike. Diana's legacy remains untouchable, a reminder that kindness can outlive even the cruelest twists of fate. Natasja Saad. A rising music star silenced in Jamaica, Natasja Saad, a Danish rapper and reggae singer, was breaking barriers with her fearless mix of Caribbean sounds and European influences. Her breakout single, Calabria, topped charts across Europe, earning her international recognition. But in 2007, while in Jamaica for performances, Saad was traveling in a vehicle that lost control. She suffered fatal injuries in the accident, just as her global career was taking off. Her passing was particularly painful for fans who saw her as a trailblazer, one of the few female artists dominating reggae and dancehall at the time. Today, her influence is still felt, as artists continue to cite her bold style and cultural fusion. Natasja Saad's freak accident robbed the world of a pioneering voice, leaving fans to wonder how far her star could have risen. Jessica Savage. A television pioneer taken by water. Jessica Savage was one of America's most recognizable news anchors in the late 1970s and early 80s. With her striking presence and sharp delivery, she broke barriers for women in broadcast journalism, paving the way for future generations. In 1983, after dining with a friend in Pennsylvania, Savage left in a car during heavy rain. The driver mistakenly steered onto a poorly marked road that ended at a canal. The car slid into the water and sank, trapping Savage and her companion inside. She was just 36 years old. The suddenness of her passing was devastating. A trailblazer in an era when few women held anchor chairs, Savage had become a role model for countless viewers. Her death highlighted not only the randomness of freak accidents, but also the fragility of progress in fields where women were only beginning to gain recognition. Jessica Savage remains a symbol of determination, though her life ended in one of the most hauntingly ordinary tragedies imaginable. Sam Kinison. A comedian's comeback cut short. Sam Kinison, known for his loud, outrageous style, became a stand-up icon in the 1980s. His delivery was wild, his humor electric, and his reputation larger than life. After years of excess, Kinison had begun turning his life around in the early 90s. He had married, was touring again, and seemed poised for a second wave of success. In 1992, while driving to a show in Nevada, Kinnison's car was struck head-on by a teenager who had been drinking. Though his wife survived, Kinnison was killed at the age of 38. Fans were stunned by the irony. A performer who had battled so many personal demons was lost in a random accident, just as his career and personal life were stabilizing. His sudden passing left the comedy world mourning a talent who had only just begun to show his full potential. Sam Kinnison's story is a sobering reminder that even those who seem indestructible on stage remain vulnerable on the road of life. Randy Rhoads, a guitar genius taken by reckless skies. Randy Rhoads, lead guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne, was hailed as one of the most innovative players in rock music. His mix of classical influences and heavy riffs changed the sound of metal forever. In 1982, while on tour in Florida, Rhoads boarded a small plane for what was supposed to be a playful flight. The pilot attempted to buzz the tour bus below as a prank, but during the maneuver, the plane clipped the bus, crashed, and burst into flames. Rhoads, just 25, was killed instantly. The freak accident shocked the music world. Here was a virtuoso whose best work lay ahead, silenced in a moment of reckless miscalculation. Fans and fellow musicians mourned deeply, and his legacy became immortal. Rolling Stone later ranked him among the greatest guitarists of all time. Randy Rhoads' story is tragic, but his influence endures every time a guitarist fuses technical mastery with raw emotion. Carole Lombard, Hollywood's queen of screwball comedies lost in wartime skies. Carole Lombard was one of the brightest stars of the 1930s, adored for her sharp comedic timing and glamorous presence. Married to Clark Gable, she was also part of Hollywood's most admired couples. In 1942, while returning from a war bond rally in Indiana, Lombard boarded a commercial flight. Not long after takeoff, the plane crashed into a Nevada mountain, killing all aboard. Lombard was just 33 years old. Her death devastated both the film industry and her husband. Clark Gable reportedly enlisted in the U.S. Army shortly afterward, fueled in part by grief. Lombard's accident became one of the first celebrity aviation tragedies, underscoring the risks of early air travel. Carole Lombard remains a symbol of wit, beauty, and patriotism, her legacy forever tinged with the tragedy of a journey cut short. Rob Pilatus. From fame to despair, ending in mystery. Rob Pilatus, one half of Milli Vanilli, rose to global stardom in the late 1980s. The group sold millions of records before being exposed for lip-syncing, leading to one of the biggest scandals in pop history. The fallout was brutal, awards were rescinded, and Pilatus's reputation crumbled. By the late 90s, he was attempting a comeback, but in 1998, he was found dead in a hotel room in Germany. The cause was ruled an accidental overdose of alcohol and prescription pills. He was just 32. Pilatus's death was a bizarre, tragic epilogue to one of music's most infamous rises and falls. While his accident wasn't cinematic in scale, it was a sobering reminder of how quickly fame can twist into isolation and despair. Rob Pilatus remains a figure of controversy, but his freak passing continues to fuel conversations about the pressures of fame and the cost of living under the harsh spotlight of celebrity culture. Jean Harlow. The blonde bombshell who faded overnight. Jean Harlow, Hollywood's original platinum blonde, was the very definition of 1930s glamour. With her sharp wit, dazzling beauty, and iconic screen presence, she was adored worldwide. Yet beneath the glitter, her health was quietly failing. In 1937, while filming Saratoga, Harlow began experiencing severe pain and weakness. What doctors initially thought was the flu turned out to be kidney failure, a condition almost untreatable at the time. Within weeks, she was gone at only 26 years old. The loss stunned Hollywood. Studios rushed to complete her final film using stand-ins, while fans wept for the golden-haired star who had seemed untouchable. Harlow's freak illness wasn't just tragic, it highlighted how little the medical world could do at the time for even the wealthiest and most famous. Jean Harlow remains frozen in time, glamorous, radiant, and forever young, her early passing ensuring her legend would never dim. Garrett Smithly. A shocking onstage accident. Garrett Smithly, a rising musician admired for his energy and raw talent, was known for electrifying live performances that left crowds buzzing. During one of his concerts, in what seemed like a routine set, disaster struck. In the middle of a performance, equipment malfunctioned and Smithly was electrocuted. Despite immediate efforts to revive him, he passed away before he could be saved. He was only in his 20s. The tragedy hit hard in music circles, not just because of his age, but because of how it happened, during the very thing he loved most: playing for his fans. His death sparked widespread calls for stricter safety measures at concerts to ensure performers and crew alike would be protected from such freak malfunctions. For audiences who had seen him live, the memory of his passion remains bittersweet. Garrett Smithly's name became a cautionary tale about how even the stage, a place of joy and connection, can hold hidden dangers. Sharon Tate. A Hollywood starlet caught in a nightmare, Sharon Tate was one of the brightest rising actresses of the 1960s. Married to director Roman Polanski, she had appeared in films like Valley of the Dolls and was admired for her natural elegance and beauty. Just 26 years old and 8 months pregnant, her future seemed boundless. But in August 1969, tragedy struck in the most horrifying way. Tate and several friends were targeted in her Los Angeles home, killed by members of a cult led by Charles Manson. The brutality shocked the world and marked the end of Hollywood's carefree golden era. The freak, senseless nature of the attack left scars on Hollywood culture that remain to this day. Security tightened, and the carefree openness of the 1960s celebrity lifestyle vanished overnight. Though her life was cut short, Sharon Tate's name endures as a symbol of lost potential and a reminder of how swiftly joy can turn to tragedy. Michael Hutchence. A rock star's mysterious final act. Michael Hutchence, the charismatic frontman of INXS, defined late 1980s rock with his sultry voice and magnetic stage presence. Hits like Need You Tonight and Never Tear Us Apart made him a global icon, adored for both his music and his charisma. But in 1997, Hutchence was found dead in a Sydney hotel room under circumstances that remain debated to this day. Though the official reports ruled it a tragic accident linked to asphyxiation, fans and friends were left with more questions than answers. He was only 37. The world mourned the loss of a dynamic performer whose presence on stage could electrify thousands. INXS carried on, but Hutchence's absence was irreplaceable. Michael Hutchence's passing remains one of rock's most haunting freak tragedies, an ending as enigmatic and dramatic as the life he lived. Freak accidents remind us that fame offers no shield against fate's cruel hand. From Hollywood royalty to music legends, these 26 stars were taken in ways that still leave us stunned. Which story shocked you the most? Was it the tragic irony of Paul Walker, the eerie mystery of Michael Hutchence, or the heartbreaking loss of Heather O'Rourke? Share your thoughts below. Hit like and subscribe for more untold stories of Hollywood's brightest lights and darkest shadows.